DHL is here with my parcel. That's the book. Yes, guys, thanks a lot. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks very much. This is my book, long awaited, from DHL, from delivery. Thank you, guys. Yes, I spent a minor fortune, and that's what I'm going to talk about now. Why I had spent so much money? $65. That's a minor fortune these days for a book. Okay, I'm so excited. I want to open this before I go indoors. Yeah. You want to see the book? Right? Okay, let's look at the book. No, not to need. I'm afraid it's been raining. There are a lot of leaves and dust, but it doesn't matter. Let's look at the book. Well, here it is. This is what I expected. I expected a small paperback. Very large, A4 size or bigger. Samurai, the autobiography of Japan's greatest fighter pilot. I had this book. For more than 20 years, but I lost it. That's why I'm ordering this one. But why? It's not a classic novel in this COVID-stricken hard times to spend so much money on a book. It's not a classic novel, not the latest bestseller or even the Booker winner. So why am I ordering this? An old wartime classic. The reason why I ordered this book is because I am writing a novel based on the Second World War about a Japanese pilot who was stricken aircraft lands in Sri Lanka, then known as Ceylon. It was a British colony at that time, and this story has already been developed into a graphic novel, but unfortunately COVID-19 halted its progress after we had published, me and my artist Namal had progressed about halfway. We had to stop it. So now I decided to proceed with a novel, but I need this book for research. That is the reason. Yes. So we'll reading the book. Okay, we'll put that off for tonight because I'm busy right now. And he got suddenly hungry. He's finishing his lunch. Good. Polish it off. So as a student of history, and military history is very much part of it, I have read accounts by participants in the Second World War, and with a particular interest in the history of aviation. I used to read the accounts by pilots from both sides of the conflict, and this one by the Japanese Saburo Sakai struck me as something special. The reason is that I have read accounts by Allied pilots, German pilots, and at least one by a Soviet pilot, but in all those accounts the man doesn't stand out, or if it stands out, it's a military man. And you could say that it's fair enough because they are the combatants. That's fair enough. But there is always other sides to a combatant. He's a human. He's a human being. And in this account, from his very difficult childhood days in a very poor province of in the island of Kyushu, Kyushu, Japan, where his mother did back-breaking labor from sunrise till sundown, just to send him to primary school, and she didn't have the means to send him to secondary school. It's thanks to an uncle in Tokyo that he went to secondary school. We see the man, the child, the young man that Sakai was, and that I find very appealing. And it's not something that because he's Asian, culturally the Japan it describes is very different from what I know here. So that doesn't come into account here, whether he's a Westerner or he's an Asian. The important thing is that as a man, as a human, he has something to say. The inner chords are sounded. And I have read with this interest in aviation, I have read the fiction of Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, the French novelist, who you of course remember Little Prince, but he is also the author of Night Flight. which chronicles the early, very difficult days of aviation. And there you see, the man struggled against the elements, and you feel that when reading the book. I'm surprised that this account has not been recognized as a classic. And there are other aspects also which come out. His girlfriend plays for him Mozart. This is before he went to war, and this is during his courting days. And that gives me an insight into the life of Japan, that he is not from a upper class family, a rich family, wealthy family, though his uncle's family is well off. They have a piano, and the girl has been studying Mozart for 3 years. Also, I would like to tell the story from an Asian perspective. These stories that we are familiar with of the Second World War are all from Western perspectives, as far as I know. Or go back to World War I. All Quiet on the Western Front, Eric Maria Remarque. This is a different perspective, and to get into the mind of a young Japanese pilot, it would have been very difficult, next to impossible, to give a sense of authenticity to this account without this book. Now, thanks to Saburo Sakai's account, I know how a young Japanese fighter pilot would feel, his thinking and his educational background, his family background. I have the geographical locations, I have some idea. I can base that on. So this guy, so my fictitious fighter pilot named Yukio Nakasone, I might rename him for the novel. He is based, his mind is based on the thinking of Sakai. I don't think that is plagiarism. It's not plagiarism because it's not like I have transposed Sakai from his autobiography into my book. It's just that I have taken an idea. I'm being honest about this. If anyone asks me, how do you gain insights into the minds of a Japanese fighter pilot of the Second World War, I'm not a clairvoyant. I can't do time travel back into his mind. I will have to do some research, and this is the only thing that I have come across that has given me these insights. And it's not a fictitious account, it's an autobiography, and it's not like I have transposed those thoughts word by word. I have taken the basic idea, and what I have done is to create a fictional character based on a real life character with artistic license, with space for artistic license. For example, as I said, Sakai is familiar with Western classical music, but this guy, Nakasone, my fictitious fighter pilot, doesn't know that. He has no familiarity with Western music. He knows traditional music. His father has played for a kabuki orchestra, and he knows the shamisen, a traditional Japanese instrument. So Sakai strikes me as a person of some sophistication, with his some knowledge of classical music, Western classical music. It is not clear whether he actually understood English or could speak English. He mentions that thanks to his uncle, he could study in a secondary school, Tokyo secondary school run by missionaries. So I presume that he had a knowledge of English. And whereas my protagonist, the Japanese pilot, young Japanese pilot Nakasone, has only a rudimentary knowledge of English. But luckily for him, the family that shelters him in British Ceylon, today Sri Lanka, they know Japanese because the Japanese professor has stayed with them, and the daughter is a linguist. She can speak several languages. She's actually a scholar. So with these devices, I hope I can make this book convincing. I'm looking forward to it. And in a future video, I will be actually talking about this book, this account, because this is something that fascinates me.